What if I told you the way you read your notes is why nothing sticks? Not because you're lazy, because you're reading in a straight line. There's a weird trick, one tiny change that hacks your brain's memory cycle. Quick scan, deeper read, micro review. Do this 3 times and your memory will stop betraying you. Visual, fast-cut shots, a cluttered desk, frustrated student rubbing temple, pages flipping, then a calm person smiling with a. Let me tell you something strange. Most students don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they study in a straight line. You start reading line after line, page after page, hoping something magically sticks in your brain. But the truth is, your brain hates straight lines. It learns in loops. And today, I'm going to give you a study trick so unusual, so simple, and so powerful that after you use it once, you'll never be able to study the old way again. This is the strange study trick. Study in loops, not lines. Quick scan, deeper read, micro review. 3 steps, and suddenly your brain stops forgetting. Just imagine this for a second. You open a chapter, and instead of drowning in information, your brain instantly begins forming a map, a structure, a story. You start seeing patterns, connections, meaning. Remembering becomes almost effortless. So let's begin. First, I want you to imagine someone at a party introducing themselves. You hear their name once, and 5 seconds later, you forget it. Why? Because your brain didn't loop the memory. You glanced once, and it vanished. But if you looked at their face, heard their name, repeated it in your mind, and then used it in a sentence, you would remember it for months. That's how your brain is designed. It needs exposure, meaning, and reinforcement. A loop. And we're going to use that same mechanism for studying. Here's the first step. You do a quick scan, not reading, just scanning. 2 minutes, maybe 5. Look at the headings, the keywords, the diagrams, the bold sentences. Don't try to understand everything. Just get familiar, because now your brain has a map, a sense of direction. It knows what's coming. And here's the secret. Once your mind has a map, learning becomes 10 times easier. The anxiety disappears, the overwhelm fades, and the deeper read becomes natural. Now we move to the second loop, the deeper read. This is where real learning happens. But instead of reading the entire chapter at once, you pick a small chunk, one heading, one page, one idea, and you dive in. Read slowly, ask questions, highlight only what matters. And then the crucial part. Close the book and explain the main idea in your own words. It might feel strange the first time. You might feel like you're talking to yourself. But this is the moment where the brain starts forming strong memory pathways. This is where understanding replaces reading. This is where the magic begins. And now comes the final loop, the smallest loop, the one that seems too tiny to matter. But it's the glue that locks everything in. The micro review. Right after you finish a section, take 60 to 90 seconds. Write down 3 things. 1 sentence summary, 1 example or analogy, and 1 question you still have. Just 3 quick notes. Nothing fancy. But this 1 minute of reflection does more for memory than 30 minutes of rereading. Because in this moment, the memory is fresh, fragile, and forming. And you are sealing it. Like putting a lid on a jar. Now you repeat the loop. Scan. Deeper read. Micro review. Scan, deeper read. Micro review. And suddenly, the chapter that once felt impossible begins to click. Information that used to slip through your mind now begins to stay. And instead of feeling lost, you feel in control. There's something I need to tell you here. Something important. Your brain does not store information the moment you read it. It stores information the moment you try to recall it. Understanding comes from exposure. but memory comes from retrieval. And that's why loops work. Every loop forces your brain to reconstruct the knowledge, not just look at it. You're not passively reading. You're actively building understanding. Let me give you a small example. There was a student named Sarah. She used to spend 6 hours reading her biochemistry textbook, and she remembered almost nothing. Her highlighter would be full, but her mind would be empty. Then she tried loops. 2-minute scan, 20-minute deep read, 90-second micro review, repeat. 3 weeks later, she didn't just pass her exam. She scored in the top 10% of her entire class. She told me something that stayed with me. She said, "It felt like my brain finally had a map. It wasn't my fault. It was my method." And I want you to feel that same shift. Because once you experience it, your confidence grows. Your studying becomes lighter. Your time becomes more effective. And suddenly you start believing, I can actually learn anything. Now let me give you a few extra enhancements that make this loop method even stronger. After 2 loops of one subject, switch to another subject for 10 minutes. This is called interleaving. Your brain gets challenged, and learning becomes deeper. Turn your micro-reviews into tiny flashcards, and your future self will thank you. Stand up when you explain something out loud. Movement locks learning. And here's the most underrated trick. Try teaching the entire chapter to an imaginary audience in 2 minutes. This forces the brain to compress the knowledge and truly understand it. But now, I want to remove every complication and give you the simplest formula ever created for studying. Quick scan, deeper read, micro review, repeat. 3 loops, 1 chapter, 45 minutes. And your brain remembers almost everything. Not because you studied harder, but because you studied smarter. Because you learned the way your brain wants to learn. Because you studied in loops, not lines. So here's my challenge to you. Right after this video, pick one chapter. Any chapter. Set a 2-minute timer and do nothing but scan. Just scan. And then, begin the loop. You will feel the difference from the very first minute. Your mind will become clearer. Your studying will become lighter. And your memory will begin to sharpen in a way you've never experienced before. Try it tonight, just once. Because once you see how powerful this is, you will never study the old way again.